Oh, goodness. I think that we're not live. I'm just going to assume we are. And I am not going to try to do any kind of whiteboardy kind of. But what is that? Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I don't want to touch anything. Hi, I'm Jane Frizzell. We're talking about ride your horse forward and make him straight, especially the 5 pages in the older edition, pages 71 through 75 in Gustav Steinbrecht's Gymnasium of the Horse. Last time, we were dwelling on that the rider should not try to put the load on the hindquarters primarily with his hands. That we have to cause the hind legs to step more underneath the weight, not step underneath the body, step underneath the weight. And this is spelled out in that third paragraph on page 73, but he also brings it up at the top of page 72 when he brings up the topic in the first place. He at the beginning, when the horse is a green, stiff, unpliable board, he has to artificially adjust the forehand forward. He cannot accomplish this by guidance alone, meaning that you can't just do that by bringing the shoulders fore in front of the hindquarters. The work of the hand, displacing the forehand fore, must be supported by the rider's legs to cause the hindquarters to step more underneath the weight. And one of the important things that was said last week is that when these dead masters were talking about the supporting aids and saying, oh, we must support the hand with the leg. And this is actually a subject that I've seen going on, the discussion going online right now with these insane dilettantes. When they're talking about the supporting aids or that the leg must support the work of the hand, he's not meaning support like a backup singer in the band. He's meaning support like the foundation of a building, so that causing the hind legs to step underneath the load is first of all the foundation. That then supports the work of the hand, meaning you can't do the hand until you have the hind legs, the rider's leg causing the hind quarters to act properly. Okay, that alone, and you can't talk about it more. Like this isn't something to go on Facebook and talk about. This is it. Like, you don't believe that? Just don't come on my channel again, because you'll just be bothered, because that is it. That's it. Now, things do get a little confusing because I'm back on page 72 now. He's talking about the lifting force must always be directed towards the center of gravity of the load. Okay, so the horse's hind legs must be caused by the rider's legs to go underneath the load. Then he goes into this part that they all do. Podolsky does it too. Talks about how the horse is designed by God like a pizza pie, more narrow in the front. A pizza pie slice, more narrow in the front. So that is describing the problem of the anatomy of the horse. He's more narrow in the front. How then am I going to get the wider hindquarters to track perfectly into those front leg footprints? Well, until the horse is made flexible in each hindquarter by addressing each hindquarter individually with alternating exercises. I think that's like I think it's in the 50s. Okay, that's how we train a horse, right? We have to make each hindquarter more flexible and attuned by addressing each one individually with alternating exercises. That is how we make the hindquarters able to start to track into the front feet. So the hindquarters get lower as they're made softer and more flexible. And the hindquarters, we're talking about those huge, massive bones, the biggest, gigantic, heavy, thick bones surrounded by the thickest, densest muscle in the entire anatomy. So that's the part that has to get all yielded and attentive in order that now he can sit. Those hindquarters are lower because their angles are closed, because he's deliberately doing that. And by weight bearing, then we can get these all to line up on a straight line. Remember, you do not make shoulder 4 on a center line or a diagonal line, do you? No, the answer is no, you do not. So what I'm going to rush by this, but I'll go back to it again next week. Putting the shoulders 4 is when the horse can't go straight yet. Now, what does it mean that the horse can make him, that he goes straight? He is made straight and that he goes straight. Now, the 2 features of straight, we already know, are that the left hind footprint tracks into the left front footprint, and the right hind footprint tracks into the right front footprint, whether on a straight line or a curved line. That is criteria number 1 for straight. Criteria number 2, where is it? Criteria. What's criteria? I don't know the plural of criteria. Sorry, I just got distracted. The second feature of straightness in the terminology of riding is that the spine of the horse covers the line of travel. So a horse, he can have his footprints sort of lining up, but have his spine, an inch to the inside of the line of travel, or a part of it, like maybe on part of a circle of his changes rein, he's shaving the top of that line. He's not following each vertebrae. How many vertebrae do we have? I don't even know. I should know, but I don't. I don't know the number of vertebrae in a horse or a human. But every single one, this is the pearl necklace, every single one has to track along exactly over that curving line or that straight line. And when it's going from a turning line, a curving line onto a straight line, it has to track exactly onto those lines, not cut corners. Now, why? This is, I think every part is my favorite part when I get to it, but this is just fantastic. So listen, we're not going to fret about moving the shoulders over to the front of the hindquarters, because really what we have to do is get the hindquarters prepared individually with alternating exercises, and then start to get the spine over the line. And then guess what? You're going to fulfill the criteria of straight. When moving on a curved line, this includes all turns on a track. So he's lined up. He doesn't have his shoulders in and he doesn't have his haunches in. He's lined up. When moving on a curved line, this includes all turns. The horse must be a part of this line. The horse must be bent in his body to the extent required by the curve. So if it's a 6-meter circle, he's got to be in a more round shape. The spine has to cover a more round shape than he would over a 12-meter circle line. The degree of the required bend depends on the size of the circle on which the horse moves. The smaller the circle, the greater the bend. And I'm going to throw in a quote from Dr. Klimka: the smaller the circle, the more the chance to win, because a smaller circle shape insists. If we say, horse, this is the circle shape, a smaller shape insists on a spine and a body meeting it. But if we're riding a more shallow curved line, we have to describe it by our aids. We can't just say, hey, man, this is a 4-meter circle, shape your body to it. If it's a 20-meter half circle, for example, or a 15-meter half circle in a warm-up, I can only tell the horse about this line with my natural aids, my seat, my leg, my hand. And that isn't very easy. Okay, I don't know if I'm getting off track. I hope I'm making sense. Okay, but let's talk about, he's going to tell us. I'm not talking about it. He is going to tell us why. Why must the spine be over the line? Why is this so important? And this is the second feature of straight that, in my opinion, if you concentrate on it and teach it, if you think I'm going to train these hindquarters with one-sided engagement on alternating exercises, you're going to be good. And then if you concentrate, I'm going to teach the horse's spine to be over the line, even to become the line. You're going to be in good shape. The bend, the spine, the spinal column must extend. So if there is an acute bend or a shallow bend or a straight line, and the horse is using his forces of his going upon it, he will hurt himself if his spine isn't properly placed upon that line. It will have an adverse effect on his way of going, meaning his gait will get deformed. And I'm using that word as in a clinical way, not in a pejorative way. His gait will be deformed and he might even hurt himself. The spinal column is the basis onto which the remaining parts of the skeleton are attached, either directly or indirectly. So the hip structure is definitely attached. The spine comes through it. It's definitely attached. The shoulder girdle, no, because the horses don't have a clavicle, but it is still attached with soft tissue, I think. Yeah, it has to be. I don't know these details. But anyway, the skeleton is the basis to which every part of the skeleton is attached, either directly or indirectly. The skeleton, in turn, not only is the support for all the muscles and nervous system, but it is also a protection for the internal organs, that we know that in the rib cage. Now, so imagine this whole skeleton and then see this top line, this spine along the top of it. In the center of these vertebrae, so we're placing these vertebrae evenly along our line of travel and teaching the horse to use himself, every vertebrae, so he doesn't tilt his pole, because that first vertebrae has to be upright over it. And every vertebrae pole through dock is going to cover these lines. We're going to teach him to go about organized like that, because then he won't hurt himself. In the center of the vertebrae, well protected as an extension of the brain, extends the spinal cord, which provides the entire body with the nervous system, the organ of sensation and animation. I just think that is one of the most beautifully best written things I've ever read in my life. And it convinces me that I have got to pay attention to the arrangement of the spine on the lines I'm traveling, especially if I'm starting to insist what angles I want his hindquarter bones to be in, and I'm adjusting them by the seat of my pants. So come on, I've got to be attentive to the arrangement of his spine on these lines. The direction of this main stem, therefore, also primarily determines the activity of the individual limbs during movement. So his movement is dependent on this being arranged properly. By nature, the horse is able to bend this part considerably. The strong bends and curvatures that he's able to perform voluntarily, like when he, turns around and itches the top of his croup with his mouth, or turns himself around in a two horse on one side of a two horse. I mean, they can do that, right? They're very flexible. The strong bends and curvatures that he's able to perform voluntarily, which are those are much more acute bends than any ridden movement would require, are sufficient proof. So he just says it better than I do. It is the object of the art of riding to discipline or govern this flexibility, to train it in such a way that the horse takes on a bend of a certain degree when certain aids are given and retains this bend uniformly and obediently. This then gives the rider the means to turn his horse easily and reliably, and doing so to put more weight on the inside hindquarter, enabling him to work it successfully. What time is it? Okay, that is so much information. But if that doesn't give you a good reason to take care to maintain the direction of the main stem of the horse's nervous system and brain, that the spine properly is covering the line, it's not tipping, it's over the line so that his limbs can receive information from his own nervous system properly and without fucked up impingements from the spine being all or tilted over these lines. It's not motocross. Now, you may motocross or bank a turn when you're on course at a 3-day. But if you're just schooling your horse, ride his spine over the line so that he gets an athletic benefit, so it becomes more flexible and it becomes more calibrated to, I just spit, I'm so excited, more calibrated to the weight of your seat and the instruction from your leg, so that he can reliably maintain a uniformity in his body so he doesn't go lame.